Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Habitual Growth Podcast. As always, I am Nathan and this is Lisa. And this is the podcast where excuses come to die, discipline is built, and lives are changed. Because here we are talking about transformation and taking action, not just listening to what is said, so you can do more, be more, and live more. And today's topic resonates exactly with that opening narrative, doesn't it, Lisa?
Yes, it does, because lots of people love to scroll content.
So today we're going to talk about content fatigue and really what that means, but also why it's important to take a step back sometimes, maybe even understand what you're watching and why you're watching it, maybe resetting your algorithm. So there's a lot that's packed into content fatigue today. But it is something that's extremely important. And I know Lisa and I were just joking before we jumped on that we are both actually taking a step back from social
Yeah.
media. And I know me personally, I used to try to be posting 3 times a day, trying to interact and comment and all this stuff. And the complaint for myself is like, it always takes too much time. But the reality is it also started to feed some pretty negative things into my
Yeah.
brain. And I was really cognizant of that. So let's talk a little bit about this, Lisa. Kind of what's your experience? What are your thoughts initially?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two trains of thought, right? There's the train that you just talked about, which is you're on social media, you're trying to be active, and it can be a slippery slope to go down a rabbit hole that maybe is less positive or loops you in because of the dopamine hit. So it's harder and harder, and you're spending more and more time on social media, kind of looking at the same things, the same type of mentality. But then there's the flip side, which I'm actually experiencing right now, which is I've started to consume content and the algorithm learns, right? So then it's pushing additional information on this topic that I'm trying to learn about. And it's almost creating action fatigue because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just gotten 10 different reels, at the top of my Instagram that all have to do with proper burpee form for a high rocks. And I'm like, I don't even know which one to look at because they're all saying something different. And
Yeah.
and it's a silly example, but I think that's the other thing that can happen is even though people are trying to get tips or learn how to do something, the rate at which the content is coming at us becomes overwhelming and it creates a state of frozen in terms of next steps or actions for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and totally, and I think that's a really important differentiation as well. So let's take these things one at a time. One, it's the algorithm and being careful of like what is pushed at you.
Yeah.
And then let's talk a little bit about how habitual growth is designed, because I get to field this question all the time, specifically when it
Yeah.
comes to content with a podcast or other guests. We get a lot of people specifically when they get into the app and they say things like, hey, I don't need another app, or I'm already overwhelmed. And I tell them, I say, this is designed actually so you won't spend time in
That's
social
right.
media.
Yeah.
It's the opposite effect. And that's just so important when it comes to the execution, because we've all heard the statements specifically from those in the personal development world of like, hey, you can scroll content all day long. You can listen, you can to a number of podcasts, you can watch a number of, plank videos or whatever they are. You can go to all webinars and all the seminars, but if you
Yeah.
don't apply things, you're just consuming, it doesn't do you any good. And that's actually why we created our narrative, our opening narrative, for that reason, is to say, hey, this isn't just for you to listen to us talk. It's for you to hear what's being said and then actually go out and apply it to your life.
Yeah.
Get off social media, get off of your phone, and go do the things that are important. Number one, for you; two, for your goal, your self-esteem, your confidence; and then three, so you really attacking and feeling accomplished on things in your personal life, not just watch somebody else or other people live theirs.
Yeah. I mean, and I think people get sucked in, right? That dopamine hit watching, getting another like, another comment. But the real confidence builder and the real reward is the action of actually doing something in your own life. And I found it really helpful using the essential actions list to limit social media. So either to create an action item that is, I'm going on social media for this purpose only. And when I'm done, then I'm getting off of it, or to just limit it, to, hey, after 7 p.m., phone down, no social media because I'm going to be present and I know it affects my sleep when I'm scrolling right before bedtime. So there's multiple different ways actually to use the essential actions list. So you don't have to completely go off social media, but that you are changing behavior of how you're interacting to it to bolster and bring action in your own life in a positive direction.
Yeah, and I think that is the key. That's very well said. I think the key is, are you using it for the right way, or are you using it to bide time to
Yeah.
not go do the things that you know you're trying to do or just being lazy. And that's my gauge where I'm like, okay, well, I need to prioritize posting 3 times a day. Well, I don't even have that many followers. We're working on some revamps for the business. My time is better spent working on the
Yeah.
business than it trying to push or create this massive audience that ultimately isn't the goal. Like our goal is to help people. And so
Yes.
we need to have a product that does that, not just have you and I up here, posting things on a daily basis because we want to be the face of the brand. And that's I think is a big difference,
Yeah.
which is how are you using social media? So that's very well said.
Yep. Yep. So what kinds of content fatigue have you experienced in your own life?
Oh man. So I gauge my content consumption in a couple of ways. One, when am I doing it? So if I'm
Um,
just bored, right? Am I doing it at night when I go to bed? So it's just keeping my mind up. What platforms really get me riled up?
yeah.
There are definite ones where my algorithm needs to be reset, or I like literally I'm like, I can't watch this stuff before I go to bed because I'm gonna get too fired up. So I have to pay attention to things like that. So that's
Yeah.
one. The second thing is I get content fatigue when I don't get any like quiet time. And I think that's really
Oh,
important.
that's
So in my
interesting.
household, as an example, I'm married, so I've got my spouse here. And my mother is visiting. I've got 3 little kids. I've got a dog. It's just like chaos all the time. And, my reprieve is on walks or at night. And when I'm just filling that with noise instead of maybe talking to God or, just listening and being in nature and being in science and giving myself a chance to think, that's where I think it becomes problematic for me is
Mhm.
I know like, hey, I'm just throwing stuff into my life and I'm not really getting anything out of it. So those 2 things are where I really get content fatigue.
Yeah, no, that I think that's helpful. I also find it I notice it when it comes in the shape of I just wanna give up. I start to get those feelings like, "Well, I don't know what else to do," or it feels like nothing is gonna work, or the state of the world right now, right? Like, well, nothing is gonna matter, so what's the point? And I
Yeah.
know when I hit that point that it's actually that's not how I feel. It's that I have been consuming content that either is not moving me in a positive direction, or I've consumed it in a quantity that is over the threshold of need to just be in the know about something. And it's my indication to step back and say, hey, I'm going to take a break for a hot minute, focus on being present, being in real life, taking
Yeah.
control of what I can control to move myself forward, to be able to recalibrate and start to build that momentum again.
Yeah, and I think it's also helpful for people to understand how social media works and how the algorithm feeds you certain things. So, as an example, again, not to trip into politics, but obviously when Trump won again, it was just this like massive push of like, oh my gosh, what's happening? I would even talk about the Charlie Kirk assassination and how
Yeah.
different we're fed different things, how different platforms feed you different things. And
Yeah.
it really does create this massive divide of people. It doesn't have to, like, it helps you
Yeah.
find your tribe, which I think is good. But at the same time, one, the context is all out of whack. Two, there isn't really a lot of context behind certain posts, and you can read things wrong. You get fed, Democrats are bad, conservatives are great, conservatives are bad, Democrats are great. Like look how the world is burning down.
Yeah.
But what it does is it doesn't allow you to have the conversation because internally build up these own barriers of discussion and proactivity of like building and fostering relationships. And I've just found like when people can't start having conversation, like when you can't even enter a conversation because we've assumed this identity through whatever the algorithm is be like feeding us on social media, that's where it becomes a real big problem. And to
Yeah.
me, being able to sit down with people that don't see eye to eye and still say, wow, we have so much in common. We're working through this together. Here's how we
Yeah.
create. You live next door to me. Let's do these things together. And I've just found those real relationships are so much more valuable than anything you're going to find on social media.
Yeah. Do you think that the openness to social media or the reliance on it is changing from, let's say, our generation to the younger generation? Do you think people are actually moving away or just utilizing social media in a different context?
I think they're utilizing it in a different capacity. I think when our generation, because our generation was basically the tail end of MySpace and then Facebook, and it was a way to keep tabs on people, right? When Facebook was there, it was, hey, I'm gonna see what Lisa's up to in her professional life. Look at her kids, look at, that promotion she got, whatever you were putting online. And now it's simply become, to me, it's this like melting pot of everybody expressing their opinion about everything.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody feels right at the same time and everybody is wrong at the same time. And there's no grace for what goes in. There's no preface of like, hey, this is my personal opinion and this is why I'm saying these things. It's a, you guys stop sharing this, or you got to do this because this is the only way to do something. And it's
Yeah.
just, I think younger generations that don't have the experience in real life and rely on social media for that information, it is becoming problematic, specifically when it comes to politics and specifically when it comes to just understanding what the real world is like and how you have to structure a family and a
Yeah.
professional job and take care of yourself instead of everything should be free, everything should be handed to me. I see what that person is doing over there. And so it's FOMO, that almost nihilism that you were talking about,
Yeah.
I think really kicks up specifically for younger generations.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, how have you used the Habitual Growth app to balance or change your relationship with social media to avoid or minimize that content fatigue?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna avoid the question initially, and then I will give you my response. But the avoidance piece of this is what I find fascinating. Is so many people that go into it, you can tell how strong of a pull social media has on people, and
Mhm.
not just our users, everybody in society, because we see time and time again. I think I would say almost every user I can think about off the top of my head that I know intimately puts on their list at some point, limit social media or
Yeah.
put the phone away for 3 hours while I'm having an evening with the family, or no tech time. And that's what it was designed to do. It's to get people to take breaks, to say, this is a problem in my life, or I need to change my behavior,
Yeah.
right? For better or for worse. But ideally, like, that's the type of stuff you want to get in, because social media, like you said, that dopamine hit is a drug. It is like
Yeah.
caffeine. It is like alcohol. It is like smoking cigarettes. It is a drug that fuels your mind to do certain things, and you have to break out of that habit. So it's great to help people prioritize, to step back from social media and say, hey, I'm going to take a break for a week or 2 weeks or a month or
Mhm.
whatever it is. So that's one thing. For me personally, I do exactly that. I'm having a Friday night with my family. Phone is staying upstairs. I'm not going to look at it. Maybe it's, hey, I'm going to read 10 pages a day. Well, instead of before I'm going to bed, I know that, for me to sleep better, I've got to put screens away. I'm going to get a hardcover book and I'm going to read in place of scrolling, right?
Mhm.
So I use the app in that capacity to help me focus, because I know the commitments I'm making to myself in that app are
Yeah.
what's going to drive me forward, not necessarily like thinking about something and then not executing it in real life.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe I'll add one more to an importance of adding something to your essential actions list, because just to what you said, right? So, like, you're choosing to make a promise to yourself and following through so that when you get to bedtime and you're like, "Oh, I really don't wanna read, I just wanna, like, lay and relax and scroll on my phone." Without that commitment and without that item on your list, it's really easy to fall in and go, "Well, tomorrow I'll do it. I'm just gonna scroll for a few minutes." So it's really kind of that black line that says, "Hey, this is a change in behavior, and I said I was gonna do this," and drive that decision to put away your phone, pick up a book, or whatever it might look like to give yourself space from social media.
A- Absolutely. And that is the point of it, right? It's to recognize patterns in our life when we need a break and then saying, am I really serious about this?
Yeah,
That's the difference between what we do and what other apps or even some coaches do, where it's like, hey, social media is the problem, but it's not the problem. The problem is you don't have control over your mind to say, I know I need to change this. I'm gonna go change it. I'm gonna go do it. And that's the integrity piece. That's the accountability piece. That's the discipline piece that we always champion. And so that's extremely important. It's recognizing the issue isn't social media. The issue is I need to be able to control my mind to tell myself no, to go do something else more
exactly.
productive. And once you work through that, that's why the app is so important in dealing with things like this, because you get to that root issue. And the second thing I just want to say real quickly that we haven't touched on yet is the dead internet theory.
Mm,
There are more and more studies coming out, especially with ChatGPT and
yeah.
especially with AI coming into play. Who was it? I think Sam Altman said this. So the CEO of ChatGPT basically came out and totally parroted the fact that the dead internet theory is real. And what that means for our audience, if you're not familiar with that term, is it means the majority of traffic on the internet, the majority of people, social media accounts, emails they're getting, interaction with people, comments,
Yeah.
the majority of that are just bots. They're not
Yeah.
even real people. They're just bots that are commenting. They're programmed to look for things, comment, comment, comment. So it makes you feel like you're important,
You're
makes
being
you
interacted with.
have
Yeah.
this audience and you're liked and you're heard and all this stuff, but that's the dopamine hit. And the reality is most of that stuff isn't real. And that's really hard for people to digest. And when you keep that in mind, right? That is what it is. But when you keep that in mind, you realize like, hey, all these voices coming at me or supporting me, I need to
Mhm.
take a grain of salt because they may not all be real.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's a great call and a good thing to end on because it's a good reminder that even when we think we're engaging with people online, 90% of them are not real. And it's important to focus your time and attention on real. So being present where you are with the people that you're with and utilizing that as your primary source of action and focus.
Absolutely. So when you're getting content fatigue, look for the signs. Look for when you start to feel overwhelmed, when you're scrolling too long, when you know you're hearing that internal voice, when you know you should be doing something else and you're not listening. This is where the Habitual Growth app really comes into play. So download it, use it. It will change your life. It will help you get to the bottom of these root issues. And if you made it this far, thank you for listening. Appreciate it. These are exciting topics that Lisa and I choose, but we'd love to hear from the audience as well. So if you got other topics you want to hear us
Yeah.
discuss, please share them with us. We'll pick them up. We'll talk about them in real time, and keep adding value for you. So get out there and make your life a little bit better and live more.
All right. Good to see
All
you,
right.
Nate. All right. Bye.